Because when they think you're weak, they let their guard down. They reveal their true intentions. They don't see you coming, and that's when you rise. You don't need to prove yourself to anyone. You don't need to announce your next move. The most powerful thing you can do is stay silent and act like you have nothing to lose. Because when you stop seeking validation, when you stop reacting, when you let go of the need to be seen, you become they'll expect you to beg, to chase, to explain, but you won't. You'll keep your head down and do the work. You'll become so focused, so relentless, so disciplined that the world will have no choice but to notice when it's too late. So today, if you feel like you've been ignored, overlooked, underestimated, good. Use it. Stay silent, move in silence. Let them think you have nothing, because in reality, you're building everything. Now, let's talk about what it really takes to master this mindset. Here are 10 key things you need to understand and apply right now. Silence is power. It's one of the most underestimated, yet most effective strategies you can use in your life. The moment you stop feeling the need to explain yourself, defend yourself, or prove yourself to others, you take back control. Because the truth is, the more you talk, the more you give away. People learn your weaknesses, they figure out your fears, they use your words against you. But when you stay quiet, when you observe instead of react, you put yourself in a position of strength. Most people don't realize that silence isn't just about keeping your mouth shut, it's about mastering self-retreat. It's about understanding that not everything requires your response, not every insult deserves your attention, and not every argument is worth your energy. The moment you realize that silence makes others uncomfortable, that it forces them to reveal their true selves while you remain steady and unmoved, that's when you start to play the game differently. That's when you start winning. When you hold back your words, you create an aura of mystery. People begin to wonder what you're thinking. They start filling in the gaps themselves. And that's the thing about human nature. People fear the unknown. They don't know how to react when someone doesn't play by the usual rules, when you don't get defensive, when you don't over-explain, when you don't rush to prove a point. You make them question themselves. And in that space of uncertainty, you gain control. Think about the most powerful people you've ever seen in a room. They don't rush to speak. They don't jump into every conversation. They don't feel the need to be the loudest person there. Instead, they listen. They watch. They process. And then when they do speak, every word has weight. That's the kind of power silence gives you. When you're quiet, your words become more valuable. You make people lean in to listen because they know you don't just talk to fill the space. You speak with purpose. But silence isn't just a tool for power over others. It's a tool for power over yourself. It teaches you patience. It forces you to sit with your emotions instead of reacting impulsively. It makes you aware of how often people waste their breath on things that don't matter. Have you ever noticed how much energy is spent on useless conversations, petty arguments, and empty opinions? People will fight to be heard, to be right, to be validated, but for what? At the end of the day, all that noise doesn't move them forward. It doesn't make them stronger. It doesn't help them win. The person who learns to stay quiet, to listen, to only speak when necessary, is the one who rises above the chaos. Because while everyone else is busy talking, they're learning, they're observing, they're understanding how the world really works. They're figuring out what motivates people, what triggers them, what their weaknesses are. And with that knowledge, they become dangerous, not in a reckless way, but in a way that makes them unstoppable. Think about the last time you got into an argument. Did it solve anything? Did it make you feel better? Or did it just drain you? Most arguments aren't about resolution, they're about ego. People want to win. They want to be right. They want to have the last word. But when you choose silence instead, you remove yourself from the fight entirely. You don't need to win an argument because you're already winning by not engaging in a pointless battle. You don't need to prove your point because your actions will prove everything in the end. One of the biggest mistakes people make is thinking that speaking up gives them power. That if they just say the right thing, if they just explain themselves well enough, they'll get the respect they deserve. But real respect doesn't come from words. It comes from presence. It comes from confidence. It comes from knowing that you don't need external validation to be valuable. The more you chase acknowledgement, the more you show that you need it. But the moment you stop seeking approval, the moment you stop explaining yourself, you become untouchable. Silence also protects you. It keeps you from making promises you can't keep, from saying things you'll regret, from giving people information they don't deserve to have. Because the truth is, not everyone needs to know what you're thinking. Not everyone deserves access to your mind, your plans, your emotions. When you keep things to yourself, you keep your power. You decide what the world gets to see and what it doesn't. You move with strategy, not emotion. This doesn't mean you become passive. It doesn't mean you let people walk all over you. It means you choose when and where to speak. You choose your battles. You decide when it's worth your energy. And when you do speak, you do it with conviction. You don't just react. You respond with purpose. Some of the most successful people in the world mastered this. They understood that silence is an advantage, that when you move quietly, when you don't let people see your struggles, your doubts, your next move, you become impossible to predict. And when they can't predict you, they can't control you. If you want to take back your power, stop talking so much. Stop explaining yourself to people who don't care. Stop giving away your plans before they're executed. Stop seeking approval from people who will never give it to you. Just focus. Work in silence. Move in silence. Let your success be your voice. Because in the end, silence isn't weakness. It's the ultimate strength. The world is full of noise. People talking, arguing, explaining, and seeking validation. Everyone wants to be heard, but few truly listen. And even fewer understand the power of silence when it comes to proving yourself. The truth is, the people who make the biggest impact in life aren't the ones who talk the most. They're the ones who take action. They don't announce what they're going to do, they just do it. They don't beg for attention, they let their results speak for them. Think about the most successful people in the world. Did they spend their time explaining why they were capable? Did they constantly tell people, watch me, I'm going to be great? No. They focused on their work. They put their energy into getting better, not convincing others that they deserved success. They understood a simple truth. When you're truly great at something, when you truly dedicate yourself to a goal, people will notice on their own. Most people waste their time trying to get others to believe in them. They argue with doubters. They try to win over critics. They constantly explain their ideas, hoping someone will finally say, yes, I believe in you. But why? Why do you need someone else's belief to move forward? Why do you need external validation to take action? The moment you stop seeking approval, the moment you decide that your actions will be enough, everything changes. The loudest person in the room is usually the weakest. The one constantly talking about their plans, constantly making promises, constantly seeking attention, those are the people who rarely follow through. Because if they were truly focused, they wouldn't have time to explain themselves. They'd be too busy doing the work. They'd be too busy proving themselves through action, not words. This applies to every area of life. In business, the best entrepreneurs don't waste time trying to convince people their ideas are great. They build something great and people notice. In relationships, the most confident people don't try to prove their worth. They show it through how they treat others. In personal development, the people who make the biggest transformations don't talk about how they're going to change. They just change. But most people don't do this. They fall into the trap of needing acknowledgement before they take action. They say things like, I'll start working hard when people take me seriously, or I'll believe in myself when others believe in me. That's backward. You don't wait for belief. You create it through action. You don't wait for validation. You validate yourself by showing up every day and doing the work. Have you ever noticed how powerful it is when someone walks into a room and doesn't say a word, but you can feel their presence? That's because real power doesn't come from talking. It comes from action. It comes from results. It comes from being so disciplined, so committed, so excellent at what you do that people can't ignore you. On the flip side, have you ever met someone who talks endlessly about their plans, about how they're going to change their life, about how they're going to be successful, but nothing ever happens? That's because talking gives them the illusion of progress. They feel like they're doing something just by saying it out loud, but in reality, they're standing still. They mistake words for movement, and that's why they never get anywhere. The most successful people understand that talking about something isn't the same as doing it. That's why they keep their heads down and focus. They don't announce every move they make. They don't tell the world their next step. They just take the step. And when they do speak, it's not to seek validation, it's to share the results of what they've already done. This mindset is a game changer because it forces you to stop relying on other people's opinions. It forces you to stop making excuses. If you can't succeed without telling the world about it first, you're not truly committed. If you need others to believe in you before you believe in yourself, you're not ready. Success starts when you decide that your actions will be enough. One of the biggest mistakes people make is thinking that if they just explain themselves well enough, others will support them. That if they just get the right words, the right pitch, the right argument, people will finally see their value. But that's not how the world works. People don't believe words, they believe results. They don't trust promises, they trust proof. Imagine you're in a room with two people. One spends an hour telling you how great they are, listing all their skills, making big claims about what they're going to accomplish. The other person doesn't say a word, but they've already done everything the first person is just talking about. Who are you going to respect more? Who are you going to take seriously? The answer is obvious. People respect results. They respect consistency. They respect discipline, not words, not excuses, not promises, just action. That's why the most powerful thing you can do is stay quiet and work. Focus on your craft, build your skills, show up every single day and do the hard things even when no one is watching. Because when you do that, eventually people will have no choice but to notice. But here's the best part. By the time they notice, it won't matter anymore. You won't need their approval. You won't need their validation because you'll already know what you're capable of. You'll already have the results. You'll already have built something that speaks for itself. So stop talking, stop explaining, stop trying to convince people. Just do the work. Let your actions be the proof. Because in the end, the people who make the biggest impact in the world aren't the ones who talk the most. They're the ones who take action and let their success speak for itself. Most people go through life reacting to circumstances, reacting to people's opinions, reacting to emotions that rise up in the moment. And that's exactly why they stay stuck. Because when you're controlled by your emotions, when you let your anger, frustration, or fear dictate your actions, you hand over your power. You let the world decide how you feel, how you respond, and ultimately how far you go. Mastering emotional control isn't about suppressing your feelings. It's about understanding that just because you feel something doesn't mean you have to act on it. Just because someone insults you doesn't mean you have to respond. Just because you're frustrated doesn't mean you need to lash out. Just because things aren't going your way doesn't mean you should quit. The moment you realize that emotions are just signals, not commands, you take back control. Think about the most powerful people you've ever seen. Do they panic? Do they lose their temper every time something goes wrong? Do they let their emotions dictate their decisions? No, they remain calm. They stay composed. They don't let external forces shake them because they understand that control over their emotions is control over their life. The world will test you. People will provoke you. Situations will push you to your limit. And in those moments, you have two choices. React impulsively and regret it later, or stay calm, stay focused, and make a decision that serves you, not your emotions. That's the difference between people who rise and people who stay stuck. The ones who rise know how to step back, take a breath, and respond with purpose, not emotion. It's easy to react. It's easy to fire back when someone disrespects you. It's easy to quit when you feel frustrated. It's easy to complain when things don't go your way. But easy doesn't build strength. Easy doesn't get results. Easy doesn't take you where you want to go. The hard part, the part that makes all the difference, is choosing control over chaos. Most people lose because they can't control their emotions. They let a bad day ruin their focus. They let someone's negative comment destroy their confidence. They let temporary frustration push them into permanent mistakes. And then they wonder why they're not getting ahead. But the truth is, success doesn't go to the most emotional person. It goes to the person who can push through emotions and stay on track. Imagine you're playing a high-stakes game. Your opponent is trying to get inside your head. They're taunting you, trying to make you doubt yourself, trying to make you lose focus. The second you react, the second you let them pull you into their game, you lose. Because now You're playing on their terms. But if you stay calm, if you refuse to let them shake you, you win. Every time. That's how life works. People will test you. Challenges will come. But if you let every small thing break you, you'll never build the strength you need to succeed. Emotional control is your shield. It's what keeps you moving forward when everything in you wants to stop. It's what keeps you focused when the world tries to distract you. It's what gives you the upper hand in situations where everyone else is losing their cool. The best negotiators in the world don't panic under pressure. The best athletes don't let one mistake take them out of the game. The best leaders don't break down when things go wrong. Why? Because they've trained themselves to stay composed. They know that emotions are temporary, but decisions are permanent. They refuse to let a moment of anger or doubt define their future. You have to train yourself the same way. You have to become someone who doesn't flinch under pressure. Someone who doesn't let fear stop them. Someone who doesn't let frustration control them. That's what separates the average from the great. The average person gives in to their emotions. The great person masters them. It won't happen overnight. It's a skill, a muscle you have to build. But every time you choose control over reaction, you get stronger. Every time you take a deep breath instead of lashing out, you get stronger. Every time you push forward despite feeling afraid, you get stronger. And before you know it, you become unstoppable. People who master emotional control are dangerous, not because they hurt others, but because they can't be manipulated. They can't be provoked into making dumb decisions. They can't be thrown off their path by petty distractions. They move with intention, not impulse. They play the long game while everyone else is stuck in the moment. That's how you win, not by reacting to every small thing, but by staying calm, staying focused, and making decisions that serve your future, not your feeling. Because in the end, emotions are temporary, but the choices you make in those emotional moments, those last forever. There's something powerful about moving in silence, about doing the work without telling the world what you're up to, about building yourself, your dreams, your future, without needing applause, validation, or recognition. In a world where people constantly announce every move they make, where they talk more than they act, choosing silence gives you an advantage. It makes you unpredictable. It makes you untouchable. Most people feel the need to announce their plans. They want people to know they're working on something. They crave recognition before they've even accomplished anything. And that's exactly why they fail. Because the moment you talk about what you're going to do, you invite doubt, criticism, and distraction. You give people the chance to plant seeds of uncertainty in your mind. You open the door for negativity to creep in. And worse, you waste the energy that should be going into action. Silence isn't just about secrecy, it's about focus. Every time you talk about what you're going to do, you release some of the energy that should be fueling your progress. You start to feel good just by saying it out loud, as if talking about it is the same as doing it. But it's not. The people who truly succeed understand that talking about their plans doesn't move them forward. Action does. When you move in silence, you protect your vision. You don't allow people's doubts to shake your belief. You don't give anyone the opportunity to tell you it's impossible, that you're not capable, that you should play it safe. You keep your dreams close and you let your results do the talking. There's a reason the most successful people don't talk about their plans until they've already executed them. They don't waste time explaining themselves to people who won't understand. They don't look for approval because they don't need it. They know that success isn't about convincing others. It's about proving it to yourself. Think about it. The loudest person in the room is rarely the most powerful. The person constantly announcing what they're going to do rarely follows through. That's because real power doesn't need validation. Real power doesn't seek attention. It moves quietly, strategically, relentlessly. And when it finally reveals itself, it's undeniable. When you stop talking and start doing, you also eliminate pressure. Because the moment you tell the world what you're going to do, people start watching. They start waiting. And suddenly, you're not just working for yourself, you're working under the weight of their expectations. That pressure can slow you down. It can make you second guess yourself. It can make you rush just so you don't look like a failure in their eyes. But when you move in silence, none of that matters. You get to work at your own pace. You get to build in peace. You get to make mistakes. learn, and adjust without an audience judging your every move. And when you finally succeed, it's not because you were performing for others. It's because you were committed to the process. Silence also protects you from unnecessary resistance. Because let's be honest, when people see you growing, when they see you changing, not everyone is going to be happy about it. Some people will doubt you. Some will secretly hope you fail. Some will try to sabotage you, not because you've done anything wrong, but because your progress reminds them of their own stagnation. But when you move in silence, they don't see it coming. They don't get the chance to interfere. They don't get the opportunity to drag you down with their negativity. By the time they realize what you've been up to, it's already too late. You've already succeeded. You've already elevated, and there's nothing they can do about it. Moving in silence doesn't mean you isolate yourself. It doesn't mean you never share your success. It means you are